I'm here with Gabriela Amaral Almeida, the director of The Father's Shadow, A Sombra do Pai, which recently aired here in Fantasia and won a special mention by the jury, and also Best Actress for Nina, who plays the role of Dalva. So thank you for being here with me, and
Thank you.
congratulations.
About the festival, it's my second time in Fantasia. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there this year, but I think for me, it's one of the coolest festivals I've ever been. And coincidentally, it was the first international festival that called my first feature to be presented. So it's a very important festival, especially for me. And being awarded in this festival where people who go to the movies are so intimate with a horror, the genre, no, the horror, suspense, or terror, and it makes me really proud and really happy.
What makes you so close to that genre, or what does make you want to tell stories with that genre?
I was born in 1980 precisely, and in the 80s and 90s, we in Brazil received a lot of North American, mostly horror movies and genre movies in general. No, not just horror, but terror, suspense, and thriller, and even Western. So I grew up watching those movies, and somehow those movies appealed to my sensibility. They somehow taught me how to tell a story, so it's very natural.
And you've been writing your own features and your own shorts for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Being a writer, how has that prepared you to be a director?
What moved me to make movies, or to believe I could make them, and to go to a movie school, where I went to Cuba movie school, was the idea that I have that I could write my own stories, because I don't have any directors or photographers or artists in my family. So I went to Cuba and I found out that I wanted to direct as well. So when I came back to Brazil, these two things grew with me while I was discovering what I wanted to do or what I could do in the industry. So from the first short that I wrote, I began to direct them. And I discovered directing is nothing but, when you think about literature, directing is the narration of the whole thing. No, it's when you where and how you put the camera in a scene or towards an actor or an ensemble of actors determines who is narrating, the form that this thing is being narrated. So I found out that this technical, mysterious field was in fact something that I was very intimate with. That is, to narrate stories. I'm not that kind of director that began taking photos when I was 6 or 7. Nothing like that, no. But I read a lot. I read a lot of, and I also watched a lot of movies. Nothing, never with the idea of becoming a filmmaker or living of it, no.
This movie was in the Sundance labs of screenwriting.
Yeah.
How is it how do they think differently? Is there an American way of thinking, or how is it different from different
You
countries?
know, yeah, it's a good question, because I'm very influenced, and I don't deny it to anyone, by the American movies, for the best and for the worst. Not that I don't have, an analytical eye, or not that I don't nowadays analyze what I've seen, and etc. etc. But it was the cinema that formed me, that formed my sensibility. And when I went to Cuba, it was curious, because it's a very strong Latin American tradition of filmmaking, no, filming the real and cinema direto and those kinds of things. And then there I was with Stephen King and all those references, those odd references for this place. But it helped me, by contrast, to understand who I was and what I wanted to do in this field. So you will never see any exercise of mine that doesn't deal with genre, and it's a very powerful experience to go through when you want to do such a nod or such a not well seen genre. It wasn't like that. No, people didn't accept that the genre like it's been accepted today. So since a graduation, I was like the odd girl, no, a little bit weird, studying Stephen King. Why do you study these things in these films and etc.? Just because it's my sensibility. And so, and then when I went to Sundance, I used to say that I find my crew, no, because they give the importance I've always intended to give to text, to dramaturgy in terms of genre movies. No, they are the crib of genre cinema, and they welcomed me with all my influences, but essentially with the attention I put on mise en scène and construction of scenes. So they welcomed me on my strength, I think, and it was a very pleasant experience because of that. No, being fitting in some group for the first time, not being the exception. I was pretty much the rule because I think they have a way of thinking about story that is very, very next to my philosophy of how to tell a story, how to deal with character, and etc.
So do you feel a bit of an outsider in the Brazilian context?
Now, less. I've felt that for many years because they don't do the kinds of movies that I do. The older filmmakers tend to see these attempts of approaching the genre movies. They don't see with good eyes. They see like slow art or somehow not now. I'm not the only one. We have also Marco Dutra and Juliana Rojas here, Anita Rocha da Silveira here too. That is a cool filmmaker that deals with aspects of genre too. So I'm not that alone. We are not that alone, but during my short directing process, I was pretty much alone here. Yeah.
Now going back to the Screen Writers Lab in Sundance,
Yeah.
that was in 2014, right?
Yeah.
By the time you shot the movie, how has it evolved? How has it changed?
I went to the Screenwriters Lab and then to the Directors Lab too, which is a lab where you are able to direct 5 sequences of your movie that you find challenging, and you direct for real, with a crew, with actors, with everything, and then we spend like almost 2 months rehearsing, shooting, and editing, and being put to the test. It's a very, very, very harsh and beautiful experience at the same time. But when I returned to Brazil, it would take a year for us to have the money to shoot, and I was like, I need to shoot, I need to direct. No, I can't wait 1 year more. The project Father Shadow had already 6 or 7 years of writing time, so I was done with that because I think there comes a time that a project it can be that mature. You have to go. For me, you have to go to the set with a lot of enigmas, or you oversolve the movie, and it becomes tasteless. That you don't have nothing to discover. So in this meantime, I came to a producer here in Brazil called Rodrigo Teixeira and presented to him Friendly Beast, which is my first movie that was to be my second movie, but it was my first because of that, because I had to wait 1 year for the money to come to Father Shadow, and I was ready to shoot. I was ready to comment on what I was living here in Brazil. And as you know, in 2015, our president Dilma Rousseff was menaced to be put down, to be impeached, and there was a lot of anger in the air. So I wanted to comment on that with fiction. That is how I live in the world. So I presented him Friendly Beast, and it was the exact time to shoot and post-product, and then the money came, and then I went on the set of Father Shadow, which was really, really good because I didn't have the weight oh my God, I have to film this movie and everybody is waiting this movie and everybody in Sundance is waiting this movie. No, I got to make other movie before, and it is really good for exercising and for putting myself out there, and then re-encounter this story and find the fresh material that I wouldn't have found if I had shot the movie right away. So it was pretty much how it worked.
So, but you're a very prolific filmmaker in that sense, right? You're already preparing for your third movie. How do you go about casting your characters?
These are really, really difficult choices. In the case of Luciana, I met her shooting a short movie. It's the third time I work with her. I went to a play that she was in, and I found very surprising and very amazing the way she turns from drama to comedy. It's very switchable on her. It's very easy to manage on her. It's an actress that has a very, very good communication with me. So it comes to a point that she understands my looks in the set. So it's really good to work with her. But in the other cases, I do a lot of testing. But in my testings, I am the one who interview the actors, not an assistant, and it's very exhausting. But through this conversation and through this first contact, I can tell, I don't know why, but I can tell who clicks with me and who doesn't. I have proven that with Nina. Was a child. She was 8 years old when I cast her, and I can't call her an actress. No, she was a child, a very sensitive child, very in the mood to play and to engage into everything. So it was keen. It was very important to talk to her. I spent like 3 weeks with her, proposing games and all the sorts of conversations and things, and her energy never dropped a single bit. So for this role, I think it was important for the girl, no, to be very energetic and very determined to go to the end, because a movie set is very rough. It's very it's very hard for a kid. And talking about Julio, for example, who plays the father, it was I went to have a coffee with him, and I expected to spend like 30 minutes, and it lasted like 4 hours. We talking about a lot of things from the character and from the situation presented on the text. And then I said, okay, this is a guy that is pretty open to the journey I'm going to propose. One thing that is important is I'm on the casting process.
You want to continue working the horror genre, and if you looked at your entire portfolio, if you look in your entire body of work and what you envision yourself, what do you think will be the thing that you want to be remembered by, or the thing that is like your signature mark, like your art?
Soon. Oh my God. I really don't know how to answer because it's so soon. I have a feeling when I started making movies, I can't even tell you which year I made those movies, because the perception of time is very crazy when you are making a movie. So I can't pinpoint. Oh, this was from here to here. The year I can't. It's like a giant ball, like a Kraether's big ball of little Kraether's. I can't answer that now, but I would like to be remembered when I die. I hope it takes a long time for my honest approach to genre. I really respect genre. I really respect, and I think it's the artists that showed me more about myself, about philosophy, are related somehow to genre, and not in the purest ways as Stephen King, but when I read Shirley Jackson, Flannery O'Connor, or Carson McCullers, I think they are dealing with elements that we refer to pertaining being elements of horror. These artists taught me a lot, so I want to be remembered to take an honest approach to genre, not an opportunistic one, not a cynical one, but an honest approach to this way of telling stories.
So much is changing right now in Brazil. And culture tends to be one of the areas very easily targeted by oppression.
Yeah, it's very sad. We are living it right now. So, like last week, we heard that the president is gonna put his hands on Ancine. Ancine is the national agency for cinema, and then it's very sad and it's very hard. It's very, there are some days that we wake up and we don't have that strength to make narratives. You just had, for example, Kleber Mendonça Filho winning a very important prize that wasn't at all mentioned here presidentially wise. No, it wasn't complimented. It wasn't nothing. So that said, there is the phantom, the ghost of censorship, no, that I think that will propel us to fight against it. It will unite us as artists to fight against it, but it's a fight, no. And I don't know. I don't have. I'm not a fighter in this. No, I'm not. I don't like these kinds of conflicts. I prefer to put my energy in another. No, in the creation itself. But I think we are in this moment, and a lot of narratives and a lot of ways of thinking the world are emerging with it, which is also very interesting and very beautiful to see. So I think right now Brazil is a very fertile soil, no, for new stories and to new approach of genre and to, but we have this, no, this difficulty of materializing all this imagery. No? So there are the two things: the difficulties and the extreme creative that's in the air. I'm saying that you do this and you catch a story because it's dense like this right now. I think horror and other genres that derive from it will always be disruptive, to always go against the establishment. It always goes because the very fabric of those stories are things that we consider taboo or we don't discuss at all. Like death is the main thing when you talk about genre movies, no? Without these elements they are not feel good elements to generate feel good movies. You are always against what is profitable for me. No, sometimes horror finds its big audiences because the anxiety is so good, so big, that you need some way to release this anxiety, and then you find a horror movie that is an extreme success. No, but in general, horror is disruptive, is against establishment, and I think now I didn't believe I was going to live to see that, but horror is I think now it's a very political tool for you to talk about your anxieties from the place that you live in my case, in Brazil, that is full of anxiety everywhere. We are very anxious. We don't know what's going to happen. So horror historically is a genre that grows up and flourishes when you don't know what's going to happen. If you come back a little bit and watch the up points of this genre, it's precisely when you don't know what's coming from the future, because the past is already dying and something new is coming from the future, but nothing is set up yet. So horror flourishes. And I think we are as a society, not only Brazil, but everywhere, it's not only here, we are living a very bizarre time.
Well, thank you so much. And I want once again to congratulate you.
Thank you very much, and long life to Fantasia and to the cinema festivals. May they assure we still have a big screen just to watch movies. No.